Thank you for joining. I'm Sherry from Sunflowers and Petals. Today we're talking custom wheel sets. If you enjoy this video, be sure to hit the like button and also subscribe. Joining me is Leah Sanda. She races Crit 2, or Cat 2, crits, gravel, cross, mountain, and track for PSIMET racing team. She's also a triathlete, a wheel builder, bike fitter, and structural engineer. So welcome, Leah.
Glad to be
Quite
here.
a resume.
Not all of them are actively in use right now.
But still, you've got a lot of knowledge there. So what's the history behind your love for cycling?
I want to say it started during my triathlon days. I started out running, and then I was constantly injured. So then I started riding, and I just grabbed the hybrid I had in the garage and started riding. And I remembered how much I loved riding a bike as a kid. I grew up in the country and I was always riding my bike. So it was really exciting to be back on a bike and have a purpose behind it. Now it was like to try to get fit, and then started training. Decided to do this crazy triathlon thing. So then I had to get a faster bike.
Of course.
So then I walk into my first bike shop, and, I don't really know anything about road bikes and what I needed to do my first triathlon. So I put my blind faith in the hands of the shop owner, and I got my first road bike. And I raced on that for 2 years. And I over cleaned this bike. Yes, you can over clean a bike. I used things like brake cleaner and stuff because it got all the gunk off the bike and made everything look so pretty. But I discovered that I was destroying the finish on a lot of the parts, and I just started taking the bike apart constantly, putting it back together again, because I wanted to get every nook and cranny clean because it was such a beautiful bike, and I fell in love with it. And then as time went on, and I got my first flat, then I had to figure out how to change a flat, and then having to have my gears adjusted because they weren't shifting right. And I started to get annoyed by the fact that I'm like, hey, here I am, a structural engineer, and I'm taking my bike to some mechanic to fix. I should be able to figure this out. I understand they have a lot of experience and they know more than me. I get that. But I wanted to know how to do this. So I started, back then they didn't have the plethora of YouTube videos now for how to, on just about everything that you can fix on a bike. They had books. So I bought the books and I read the books, and then I would go into the shop, ask questions in the mechanic. And so it just I've always been very mechanically inclined. So this was this fun little puzzle. I got to figure out, well, how do I adjust this? How do I fix this? And it just kept growing from there, and it was kind of a slippery slope. And before you knew it, I was standing in a bike shop where I had bought my next bike, and kind of became friends with them. And they, at the time, I wasn't working as an engineer. I had decided to stay home and raise my kids, but I was like, I need something to get out of the house. I was standing in there, and the mechanic, I asked him if he could help me with the project, because I wanted to change all the cables and housings on my bike. And he said, well, just bring your bike in here, put it in the stand. I'll show you everything you need to do. And he walked me through everything. And I thought, that is amazing. And then they offered me a job. They were like, you need to come work here. We really need women in a bike shop.
Yes.
Because 50% of the people who walk in their door are women. And understandably, you look around at a bunch of grumpy mechanics, men, that's a little bit intimidating for a woman to walk into a scenario like that, where not only are you not maybe as mechanically inclined, sometimes you feel like you get talked down to.
Yes.
Yes.
Very true.
So that really started my journey that was totally unanticipated into the whole bike industry. So I started to answer your original question. I just kind of fell into the mechanical stuff and trying to figure things out. And then I fell in love with passing on my knowledge to other people. And then I got to do that while I was actually getting paid money. So
Which
that
is even better.
was even better. And so that's kind of where it started, I guess.
And then how did you get into building wheels?
Well, I always wanted to understand every little component atom that went into a bicycle and how it worked and why it was there. And I wanted to understand why we had this whole array of fancy wheels hanging on a wall in the shop. And it's like, well, that set's only $1,000. That set's almost $3,000. Why the difference?
Mm-hmm.
And the only real answer I could get was the marketing material didn't really answer my question.
Yeah.
I wanted to understand what was driving the cost in the different wheel sets. So I had this constant curiosity to learn more, at the same time as I wanted to learn how to fix things and build things. And again, the mechanic at that shop taught me how to build a wheel. So I built my first wheel when I was working at that shop. And that was a very, very frustrating experience because I found myself not really fully understanding what I was doing or why I was doing it. I was just following a rote procedure that he told me to do this, then do this, then do this, then do this. And so I wanted an opportunity to practice more. And I wanted to be able to find somebody that could answer a lot of my questions. And that led me to seeking out Robert Curtis, who everybody said, well, he's the wheel whisperer. He knows everything wheels. He's a custom wheel builder. So I asked him if he ever took on like an apprentice or anything like that. And I said, I'd be willing to work in exchange for you teaching me. And I thought it was going to just be a short-term thing, learn some stuff, but it ended up growing into me working for him because he ended up in a situation where he needed help and I had already been there helping out a lot. So he's like, well, how would you like to actually make this like a job? Because he really needed somebody officially helping him. So I was like, okay. So that led into that. So then I officially was a wheel builder working for PSIMET. And that's
how long have you been there?
10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, we talked about cycling being an industry that's male dominated. So are you constantly having to prove yourself when a new customer who doesn't know you comes in the shop, sees a woman and it's like, yeah, you can't be a mechanic and you can't be a wheel builder. Where's the guy that I can ask the questions to?
Believe it or not, I have not had too many situations like this.
Really?
I think that between working, I'm always been that kind of person that just wanted to stay in a quiet corner by myself and do my work. I didn't want to ever have to really interact with the public, but being thrown into a sales floor situation for almost 6 years at the bike shop that I worked at, I learned how to just come rolling out hot with a ton of confidence, even if I didn't feel it inside.
Yeah.
That's what I projected constantly. So I think that maybe eliminated some of that.
Okay.
So, I mean, every once in a while, somebody will just assume that I must be married to the owner, because why would you think that a woman was actually working here that didn't have to be here or something?
Right. Or you didn't know anything. Right.
Right. But outside of that, for the most part, I just make the assumption right off the bat that they're going to treat me with the same respect that they would anybody else. And I say, oh, how can I help you today? And start asking them questions, and I just dive right into it. And I haven't really had anything that really stands out to me. So it must be how I approach people that I've been.
Yeah, that sounds like it.
Yeah.
Have confidence. So let's talk about building a custom wheel set. Why would someone consider going custom?
Well, so there's a number of different reasons. Number one is it could be aesthetic. Like, say you really want gold hubs, or you really want a certain color mix. With custom, you can do that to a certain extent. You can do custom decals, so we can really customize the appearance of a wheel set.
Okay.
For the most part, though, I would say that when you get a wheel set that comes in OEM, so original equipment manufacturer, what comes on the bike, generally they're going to put a wheel set on there that is going to be a one size fits all. It's not necessarily going to excel at the extreme ends. It's going to fit the center of the bell curve. So whether you're a 120-pound woman racing criteriums, or you're a 250-pound dude racing or doing club rides, or somebody going out and doing epic miles cross country, you're going to get just a standard basic wheel set. It's not necessarily going to excel on what you specifically needed to do for you as a person that's going to be on the wheel set. So a custom wheel set can be, it can be picked, the hubs, the rims and spokes can all be put together in a system that is optimized for how you're going to use the bike, how you're going to use, obviously, the wheel set on the bike, and what kind of a rider you are, and what your priorities are in terms of your budget, the weight of the wheel set you're looking for, whether or not you need it to be aerodynamic, whether or not you're looking for uber durability, or where are your priorities. You have to sacrifice some to get others in there, but you can come up with a mix that's just what you need. And even with all of that, you can still get generally a much higher quality component mix than you can in that OEM wheel set for the same or even less money.
Interesting. So before we get into too much detail, you threw out the words hub and spokes and things. Can you quickly point out, the major components that make up a wheel? I assume you have a wheel there.
I do. So this is actually one of our cyclocross wheels. This is a front wheel. Your main components are going to be your hub, your spokes, and your rim. So generally, rims, you're either going to be talking about aluminum, or you're going to be in carbon. This one's carbon. And then within that, you have a whole bunch of different variations, which I can go into in a minute. And then you have spokes. There's a lot of crazy spoke patterns out there and different spokes that are more or less designed to make you feel like you're getting something better or sexier than something else. They came up with the new buzzwords for this and then blah, blah, blah. Tried and true lacing, 2-cross, whether it's radial or 2-cross or 3-cross, and that's how many times the spokes cross another spoke as it's going from the hub to the rim. That's pretty straightforward. Anything out there that is some crazy paired spoke and stuff like that, I have never seen another system than this basic pattern that works better than this. It's usually just an effort to make something look sexier, and they'll convince you that it's better, but it's really not. I've seen them break all the time, fix all these weird things. And the hub, this is really your heart and soul. Well, I mean, the rim's super important, obviously, but the hub is a moving part. It's going to have to absorb all the lateral forces while also moving and spinning freely. So you've got a lot of bearings in there. And that's definitely a consideration. And that really affects the quality, and durability of a wheel set, is what's going on in here in the hub. So that's your main components. Do you want me to get into each one?
We don't have to go into too much detail because
Okay.
I want to keep this at a high level, but with all the different components, how does someone start configuring a wheel set?
Well, the starting place is usually with the rim. So we want to find out, when I start a conversation with somebody on email at work, is, well, let's start out with what kind of a rim you need to provide the function and support the tire that you plan on riding. So we always start with the rim. So first question is going to be, do you want aluminum or do you want carbon? That's really going to have a major impact on the cost, right. Not necessarily on durability. The real benefit to carbon is that you can get a more aerodynamic rim, which means more depth in here, makes a more aerodynamic wheel set without the penalty of huge weight. Obviously, if you put a really deep section in here with aluminum, the thing is going to weigh a ton. So carbon really excelled when we wanted more aerodynamics. Then carbon also is, it's very stiff. It is very, it's very light. They have come a long way. They're very durable, actually. It used to be there was some concern on carbon, and there always is. You know, so you're pretty much adding almost $1,000 to a wheel set when you go up to carbon. But it really depends on your budget and what your priorities are. So that's where we start on customizing a wheel set. And from there, we generally go to the hub. And I usually try to tell people to put the highest quality hub that you can in there for your budget.
Which answers my next question. If you have a limited budget, if you had
an unlimited budget, you start out, you can get with, you get good, better, best, basically in the hub ranges. And so we have a number of hub manufacturers that we deal with that fall within that range. So at the highest end, you're going to get a hub set that is going to outlast the rim. It is something that you would pass on. It has a lot of resale value. You would rebuild it into another wheel set at some point, or you could sell it someday and get a very good return on your money. Whereas a hub that is more at the we call, I guess, your budget end is going to serve the purposes. It's going to get the job done. It is going to wear out with the wheel set, with the rim over time. But you save a lot of money in the process. And if you aren't really overly concerned about, hey, maybe I have to, at some point, may have to replace the hub. Maybe the hub wears out before the rim does. They're not that expensive, so replacing it isn't too onerous. Plus, we have a lot of changing technology constantly now. It seems like now we go to disc and we have all these different axle standards and so on and so forth. And then people are changing bikes, so their technology changes. So you have to ask yourself whether or not it really makes sense to invest a lot of money in that hub. So those are all considerations. And then you get to the spokes. You can save. Really, we pretty much offer, you've got round spokes, or we've got these, I won't call them bladed, they're kind of an ovalized spoke. This is a SAPIM CX-ray. It's a very lightweight spoke. They cost a bit more, but you save quite a significant amount of weight in the wheel set. So really, when you get to spokes, you're really talking about, do you want to add that extra $80 to upgrade to the CX-ray spokes? or do you want to keep the cost down a little bit? You can save a little cost staying with the round spokes.
Okay. Well, that's great information. Well, Leah, thank you so much for sharing your vast knowledge with us today. If someone's interested in a custom wheel set, how can they get in touch with you?
Through our website. So that's PSIMET, PSIMET.com. We actually have a whole configurator on the website that starts with choose your rim, and then you can configure something right from there. There is somewhere in there, I think on the about link on the website, or that's to like send in just a request for quote if we have questions, or we can be emailed directly at info@PSIMET.com.
Okay.
And we find that about half the people come to us straight from, they just put an order straight through on the website. They knew exactly what they needed to get. And about the other half, they email us through one of those channels and they have questions, and we work them through to help get to their final design of what they would like for the wheel set.
Oh, great. And I'll also put those in the notes too, so that people can find you.
Yes, thank you.
Well, thanks for watching another Sunflowers and Petals video. If you enjoyed this video, click the like button and make sure to subscribe, and enjoy the rut.